I'm now in the operating system of everything I do is shit and I need to make it better. So having a team is a life hack for me to make content, and it is effortless. And if I want, I have endless content. Now all I need to do...
We're not creators trying to go viral. We're business owners using content to make money.
You have all these guys, they might have potential, they might be interesting, they might be talented, whatever. But if they're not willing to stand on their own 2 feet and to live life on their own terms, how are they going to ever achieve anything? Since 17 years, I've not had someone tell me I have to wake up and do. I just have to do it, because if I don't do it, I get no outcome.
For someone who's in the UFC, you would have never thought that you would have done the content route and been like really obsessed with content and using it for everything. I would not have put 2 and 2 together. They don't fit. But what was like the idea that, I'm going to go all in on producing a shit ton of content and creating a studio? Like, what's underneath there?
To be honest, it came out of nowhere because I went to Dubai and I did a podcast with a friend of mine, and it was like I think you got like an hour slot there. And you paid for an hour slot, and you go in and you talk, I come out of the podcast, and the guy was like, "Oh, you can talk." I was like, yeah, that was great. We should do another one. And I was like, "Okay, I'm here till Friday. Book it and I'll come." He's a friend of mine. Tried to book it, and the studio was booked solid for 3 months. I was like, no, it's impossible. Impossible. I was like, "How much you pay for this thing?" I think it was like $250 or something like that. It's like $250 an hour. I was like, I rang my friend. I said, "I need a podcast studio in Marbella." I Googled Marbella podcast studio, didn't exist. So I was like, I need a podcast studio. Next week, I had the lease to this place like wrapped up, done. And it became my office. So I just built it out as a studio and my office. So I just had a cool place to work and I could start making content. I did it completely as just for fun. Yeah, I did it for no real reason. I just wanted to have an office that I thought then is in the center of Port Banús. I can maybe, rent it out every now and then and pay for my office and have a central spot. I did it 100% for networking purposes, to meet interesting people. I thought I want to meet influencers. I want to meet people that make great content. I want to So if I could do that, the best way to do it is to provide services. If I can provide services for these people, I'll meet cool people.
Yeah, man.
So that was the whole idea. I was so busy with a load of other bullshit that I rented the space. I kind of built half of a studio and I had an office here, but it never lived up to its full potential. I got one member of staff and he was great. He was amazing, but I wasn't pushing him. I wasn't doing anything. And I just used it for my own content. But even at that stage, I wasn't really even that interested or bothered about content. I was still learning, and I still would say I'm learning the social media game in general, personally. And it'd only be since I got my partner, Bradley, about a year and a half ago, that I started taking this place seriously. I had it a couple of years. Obviously, we had the fire and everything else that you know about, but I've had it a couple of years. And I would say the last 4 months, I would say we're doing it properly. Now we've got a full team here, got videographers, got editors, got the whole shebang. And now I'm taking my content way more seriously because I've attached a $sign to my content, because I just used to want to look cool on Instagram, post cool things, look like a G. And I
just B-roll content, bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. I did it for no real purpose. I just did it because everyone else was doing it, and okay, cool, I might as well do it. So I didn't really have a vision for it so much when I started. I just thought there's a business there. I see it happening in Dubai. Marbella is a mini Dubai, and the more it's growing with these sort of people coming here, it's going to be a business. So I just kind of jumped the gun a little bit and got into it, but not really properly.
But dude, it's blown up your Instagram, right? You've pretty much doubled your Instagram in the past year.
Easy. Yeah, and that all come from creating reels. Like that was my whole Instagram. I didn't even, again, I had no service to sell. I had no reason to have an Instagram. I just thought, I want an Instagram. And then I came up with the whole, obviously being close to Andrew and everything else, and him talking about how influence is important and how people Okay, I should get some followers, because if I got followers, I could sell them anything. My followers were just from fighting days back in the day. And Instagram wasn't really around when I was in UFC. It was more Twitter, but they kind of transferred over a little bit.
Into reels and shit.
I know, but then, I think I had around 35,000 followers when I started making content and doing reels. And I just thought, fuck it, I'll make some reels. So I had loads of B-roll from doing loads of cool crap, and I had a guy on my team, and I hired another editor, and I made a load of reels, and I think I'm now at like 119,000, and I still haven't I have not taken content seriously until like the last couple of months, and I would say I've made great content, like I make good-ish content, but I still don't feel like I'm doing it properly. The last couple of months I'm doing it, but I'm still not really doing it. I think you'll see the difference when I'm really, really, really doing it.
Before we move any further, I have one short question to ask you. Have you been enjoying these episodes so far? Because if you have, I would truly appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel to help more business owners grow their online business today.
It is working really well though, because like all the different posts you have, they're all driving a lot of awareness on top. And like taking like Andrew's example, like you surely have fucking learned a ton from him. Surely.
Loads, but like indirectly.
Okay, what do you think? What have you learned from his content strategy versus what you're doing? Because you're doing everything in house, right?
Now I'm doing everything in house, and I'd say that was the most biggest thing that I've learned indirectly is having a team. That like the reason now with Andrew his content's so amazing, and it always has been amazing, is because he would just talk to his cousin on his phone, right? So that's where his journey started. It was internal when he'd be talking to somebody else, but there's always a camera. There's always a camera around. They pick it up and they can talk to it.
It's so important, man. So, it's fucking everything. And just put a fucking mic on. We're talking about that all the time.
Yeah.
I just clip a mic on, and as we're talking outside, just spitting shit. Like all of that is good.
Because that's when the gold comes. Because that's when you're natural, and that's when it's like you have a. What happens now in because obviously when I'm around the boys or whatever. For Andrew, when something smart is said, or something cool is said, or something funny is said, he goes, get a camera. And instantly they just repeat it. Because then it's like natural and it's done. So if it's not caught like, because they have a full team and they live with them in the house, if it's not caught in the moment because they weren't recording or whatever, he'll just say, Bailey, get a camera. Bailey goes and gets it and he just repeats it. Because he's like, he's at the point now where he understands what will sell and what won't or whatever. So it's natural content, but it's done whenever he wants it. So I learned that now I have a team. You know, we've got to the stage, still building out the team, still have more people to add, but I have an in-house team that if I think of an idea, I can make content about it. I was never the guy, and I realized this about myself very early. I like being in front of the camera. I like talking. I think I have interesting points of view, but I am never the guy who's going to pick up a camera and talk to it myself.
Same.
Do this. I can't do that. I feel uncomfortable, and I feel like, I don't know. I don't want to be that guy. I tried making a vlog once because I was told I need to make one. So I did it in my car and I went to the gym and I just felt dirty. I don't know how else to explain it, but I did not feel good. Having a team is a life hack for me to make content, and it is effortless. And my team are learning and growing and becoming better. But now I have endless content. If I want, I have endless content. Now all I need to do is really shape it a little bit better, think about the themes a little bit more, which is stuff, again, I've just been making shit for shit's sake for so long now. And like you said, I'm very authentic, and my content has been garnering, people who care about it. But I've not been trying to sell anything. I've just been being myself and doing whatever. Now I'm coming into the world of actually trying to sell something.
Yeah, that's what I'm like, how does this fit together, right?
And it's getting a little bit more complicated, and I don't know how much I like it at the moment.
Why?
I don't know. I feel like, again, when I was just doing it for fun, and I was doing it because I do it for the sake of doing it, there was no pressure on it. Now I'm tracking metrics and looking at this and thinking, that did this better than this, and it's becoming a bit more like a job, and it is a job, don't get me wrong, even with a full team and with everything else. And I'm feeling like I need to improve the quality of my content. Like I need to improve the things I say. I need to improve the outlook. I need to improve a few things.
Isn't that good though, right?
Yeah,
because it's like going to the gym, or it's like boxing, right? Like obviously you're a fucking professional fighter, right? But when I was doing it passively, I was just consistently shit. Because I was training twice a week, maybe not in the gym, and I'm like, I'm just consistently shit at something, and that's how you kind of quit, right? But that was literally what was happening to me, and I wasn't enjoying it. Now, I think there's a lot of merit to tracking this shit, right? But
100%.
it gets to the next level of the layer, right?
And I think that's why I'm saying now I'm like displeased with it, is because I've started tracking it, and I'm now going to be in a consistent cycle of hating my content, because all I'm going to do is see things that are wrong with it and try and improve it. And it's kind of how I operate. So I'm now in the operating system of everything I do is shit and I need to make it better. So before I was like, I don't care, just doing it for fun. Doesn't matter. Now it matters. So as soon as it matters, and people are going to, which I never expected or thought of or looked at, the people are going to look at me like a content creator or like an influencer. I hate that word, but they're going to look at me like that. And I'm putting myself out like that. There's no way that I'm not. And I have to accept that, which I still don't fully accept. That means my content's got to be good because I'm doing it.
There's a nice reframe
purpose.
with this though, right? The reframe I've had is like, we're not fucking creators trying to like go viral. We're business owners using content to make money. And with that frame, you're like, okay, when I'm recording and I'm recording here, it's marketing, and this is just marketing. It's acquisition of your business. But I feel like it's easier when you have that product suite in the back, and you're like, okay, I know I need to get up and do something, and it's not going to be dumb, right? It's not going to be dumb, but it does feed into the product, right? And like, I think what's interesting here is like, what have you had in the back of your content, and what is it you're trying to build in the back of your content, right? Because that's going to dictate everything, and that's why it's very unique, right?
And that's
the position you're in.
Yeah, so that's the thing. To start with, nothing in the back, nothing, zero. Then I went on to doing mentoring, like one-on-one mentoring, and I was selling one-on-one mentorships at a very high price point, and I did that for a couple of years.
Did you enjoy it?
No, that's why I stopped. I didn't like my life and my calendar being controlled by other people. Okay, I got a phone call 6 p.m. on Friday, or I hated it. To be honest, hated it. Financially was great. Seeing the improvement in people was great. I liked that, but being beholden to other people, couldn't stand it. And I got switched off to it very, very quickly, and I stopped doing it. Because, to be honest, I had a different line of work, running events and doing other things that was filling the gap financially, and I enjoyed it a lot more. So I faded away from it, and that's kind of when the content, what I realized when I started making content more recently was like, what is the point of my page? What is the purpose? What is the message I'm trying to send? And there was zero. There was zero. I had, what is my avatar? Who is the person that should come to my page, look at my page? And I had none of that. I had no direction. Everything I was saying a lot of things, but none of them really had any purpose. And I still feel like it doesn't, which is why I'm saying I hate my content. I feel like I need to zoom in and zero in on what I'm trying to do. So that was like the first phase with doing the mentorship, but I didn't really at that point have a content game. So I was doing the mentorship, and it was kind of working off the back end just from a bit of notoriety. And then I stopped that, and I went into events, and I kind of didn't have anything in the back end again. And now I'm coming back into having something in the back end, but it's a much different approach. I'm about to launch like a fitness app, if you want to call it a fitness app, but it's more like a fitness and a lifestyle app that will be more, what's the word? You're going to know better the words than I am, but like more of a broader view and broader price point. It's not going to be one-on-one coaching. It's going to be coaching, but it's going to be built out in programs.
Low ticket.
And it's going to be more low ticket. So it's a low ticket offer that will hopefully have more of a...
It's fucking hard to crack, dude.
Audience, yeah.
It's based on a lot of volume. If you have the volume, and you can fucking deal with the churn, it's great. But I mean, like it's actually the hardest thing to crack. Now, it might give you the most freedom. Andrew, I might give you the most in terms of like you're not doing shit, but I mean just in terms of like it's like running a software company because it's $49 a month. You gotta get the guys to come back every single fucking month. Something goes wrong, they're a bunch of they're like 17-year-old kids, right? It is very tough, like economically to crack. You can fucking do it, obviously, but I mean that's like business mode on fucking hard mode. That's literally the equivalent, right?
I feel like I'll probably run it at more like the 200, 250 price point, but it's still low ticket. But I think, for me, dealing with the churn and dealing with that, I got no problem. As long as it's built there and it's set there and it's got less expectations for myself on time, I can then focus on other businesses and other things, but it's always there. So it gives my content a purpose. So that way, everything that I'm doing in this place and the team and everything else that I've got and getting my following from now it's 100,000 to getting it to 1 million makes more sense. Because otherwise, why are you doing it? Trying to feel popular? I don't give a fuck, right? So it's it gives me more of a purpose and more of a mission, if you want to call it that, when it comes to social media, and more of a reason to create content. And I like creating content, and I'm liking it more and more and more because I'm giving it that reason in the back end. So I think having that back end, I feel like I have a good message. I feel like what I'm trying to, the coaching that I want to offer is extremely important, but I couldn't do it for so many people. Like when I'm doing it one-on-one, I could do it for like 3-4 people.
Could do group.
You do group.
Could do group.
But, you know, if I could reach a couple hundred people with this product, I'd be happy. You know, and I think I would have more of an impact on their lives at a lower price point. Not everyone can afford 20 grand a month, 20 grand for a 6-month mentorship. So it's like to try and give it at a lower price point. I feel like I reach more people. I feel like it's more scalable. I feel like I think there's a lot of pluses to it. Hard to crack, for sure. But anything worth having is hard to do, right?
Of course, right? Yeah. You said mission. What is your mission?
For me, I believe my life has been shaped by the fight gym, by fighting, by the people that I've met, by the experiences that I've had, and the way I see the world now, and what I see. I want to basically become like the big brother to everyone out there who's struggling as a man. So there's a lot of them that are really, really struggling with purpose and having their own mission. And I feel like I have the tools and the knowledge and the experience to inspire those people to live better lives. And I think that comes from the cage fighters, mixed martial arts gym. And I think not being so soft and not being
a princess.
The princess.
Fucking princess, man.
Fucking princess for all these people.
I call it princess syndrome, man. And I have business owners that are like this. I have many business owner clients. I'm like, you're a fucking princess.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or a cunt. It depends how you want to say it. But that would be the MMA equivalent. But I think that's why the missing layer for me on doing this for the beginning was having a way to deliver it, because it's very hard you can have all the theory and you can talk about how to improve your mentality and all this bullshit, but it's hard to measure. Very, very difficult to measure. You can feel it internally, but how do you measure it? And that we talk about churn, you talk about drop off, you talk about those sort of things. So for me, putting the fitness layer on top of it and giving young men a way that they can look in the mirror and they can see improvement in themselves like every single week, that's what kind of unlocked it for me. So that's where it'll be based on physical fitness, but there's a lot more in-depth version of that. So it's like once you start, the first base level of component of it will be getting in physical shape and getting in condition, and then building your character from there. And it will be, I'm looking at like a 12-month lifespan for the product for people to join. It'll be a monthly, but looking over a 12-month period to try and improve people's lives. And then we'll see where we go from there. But that's where I'm at right now with the product. And step one is to get in shape and to see the difference. You know what I mean?
Dude, one of my mentors said to me, what does success and winning look like for your customers? Because for some people, it could be getting in super amazing shape, getting in the UFC ring and like winning their first fight. For another person, it could be just signing up because they've been, in this position, which is bad for so long. Winning to them is just signing up, joining a fucking call, going through the app. So I think it's like amazing to have we want to get as many people amazing results, obviously. But it's interesting on the other end, right? Someone in 10 years time be like, yeah, the fucking first step I took was Luke's program, which many people say that about the real world. They're like, a lot of my editors and designers came through that 3 years ago. And it was like, yeah, foot in the door. I'll tell you a fucking story, actually. I met this woman in the gym I'm in Bali. Young woman, she's like maybe 21, making good money, probably like 15, 20K a month. And she's doing a copywriting. And she left school, just went straight into it and so on. And I was like, where the fuck did you learn it? She was like, the real world. She's like, I came across like Andrew's stuff when I was like 15, 16. And I just, initially, I hated it. And then initially, I listened to it. And then I learned, started, went through the program. And then I got a shit ton of clients. So it's like, what is that first step for people to start their journey? And then for the rest of their fucking life, then they're on the wave.
Yeah, I think I'm just like the amount of stories that people do not hear about the real world and about people, how it's changed people's lives and people's perspectives. And like you said, taking that first step, and it's going from 0 to 1. Like that's what you got to teach people. Going from 0 to 1 as a copywriter.
0 to 1 is harder than 1 to 100.
100%.
100%.
So that's taking that first step and getting through there, and that's why Andrew's so inspiring, and that's how he manages to get so many people through the door. Talk about churn rate, I'm sure theirs is extremely high, but they get enough people going through it that then they change so many lives, because they learn a skill and they feel empowered, which is what it's all about, right? So you said like about what the goal is. For me, the goal for people that will join my program and do my app is we talk about confidence, and that's the main goal, is to be able to walk down the street, see 3 guys walking towards them and not have to cross over. That's the whole idea of the product. The product isn't about getting in the best shape of your life. Yeah, you'll do that as well. It's about changing your mind and your mentality to feel secure enough to be confident in yourself. That's what I believe I have and have learned through, again, the fight gym, through fighting and myself as a young 18, 19-year-old kid. When I first went to a fight gym compared to now, it's all just confidence, and confidence is built over layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. But it's achieving something. Like you said, that girl, that young girl that you met, who's now making 15, 20 grand a month because she just signed up to something that costs 50 quid a month and did like the real world and learn online and did, like, she would have felt achievement through going through those courses and ticking boxes and achieving and learning things. She's now felt that and gone on and created a whole business. That's what I want to do for other people, is make them, okay, maybe you're struggling to go to the gym because you're too scared to go to a gym. Okay, come to me and I'll talk to you and then you'll go to a gym. It's that simple, you know? So I think everyone's on a different stage in their life, and now the princesses, there's a lot more of them, and to try and inspire them to do something, you got to push people, you know what I mean?
I was in London last week, and you know, people say a lot of shit about the UK, and I was in like a nice area, so I was kind of like kept away from it. But then I started going around London, I started seeing it, and obviously like everyone's saying shit about the UK, same as Ireland, right? What's your observation of like the situation there, especially from like a leadership perspective, right? Because everyone will fucking blame someone. I had speaking to Elliot Wise, he's on my podcast, and Elliot had some very good points on this as well. But where do you stand on that, right? Because you can't just fucking point fingers, especially as a dude, right? But then how much responsibility can you take for other people's actions equally? So I'd love to get your thoughts on that, right? Because it's led by the men, right?
Well, everything's led by the men, but I think when it comes to the UK, I've not lived there for 12, maybe 13 years now. I lived in California and I've been here for 10. So I wouldn't say it's on my scope. I don't visit because I have family there and everything else. Every now and then I'll go. But for me, it's an energy problem. Yep. Like whenever I go there, I feel so low with energy, and there's so many amazing places. I was at dinner last Friday and someone was talking to me about London. Oh, London's so amazing. It's so da-da-da-da. And I was like, I'm sure it is to visit.
Yes.
And it's story like fairy tale from seeing it in movies and da-da-da-da-da. If you're not from the UK, you want to go to the UK and you want to visit. And London's great. And if you go to Harrods and da-da-da-da-da. But when I visit anywhere in the UK compared to Marbella, I feel pressure on my shoulders from the energy when I get there. It's so beaten down. So, like, I think politically, if you want to talk about politics, I mean, everything is wrong in the UK. Absolutely everything. There's nothing that they're doing right, in my opinion. I think it's the worst government we've had since I've been born. And I think there's a lot of problems. What it needs to improve is, like you just said, it needs the men to take responsibility, and it needs the men to stand up, and it needs the men to do something about it. If you're living in the UK and you want to live your life there and everything else, and I know Elliot Wise is very, very pro-UK, pro-Britain, and I got a lot of friends that are pro-Britain as well. And there's loads of ways that you can, you know, disguise it or talk about it. But the problem in the UK is always going to be immigration. But the reason that there's so much immigration is because white people don't want to work. That's the main issue. So the main issue, I believe, is the young generation. They talk about it in every empire that's ever fallen. I talk about the UK, but you could talk about America, you could talk about anywhere. When a country becomes so rich that the people are not willing to do the jobs that got them there because they're so comfortable and so rich, they're not going to go picking fruit. They're not going to go cleaning roads and do that. So they bring in another workforce to do that. That workforce that they bring in, when the workforce that they bring in repopulates, I think it's 9 times the speed that the white people do. What are you going to get? You know, so that's kind of where the UK is at. It has opened its door to immigration to allow people to come in from impoverished nations to do the jobs that the white man is not willing to do. So they have lost their country. Now, if you want to take your country back, you just need a white man willing to do the job that the brown man's doing. That's the reality. No one wants to talk about it, but that's like the brass tacks reality. And I've seen it, over the last 15, 20 years.
Are you an agency owner, coach, or consultant looking to scale your online business? At Volks, we help business owners scale their online business with content. We help them specifically build a high-ticket offer, create content that turns into clients, and also help them with the sales process to make sure every single call that's booked in your calendar turns into a client. If you want to see more about exactly how we do this, hit the first link down below and watch a full free training on how smart entrepreneurs are building a business in 2025.
And you also got, that's something I talk about a lot on my podcast, right? So my wife is American. Her dad grew up homeless and in his 20s got a scholarship into university, like studied his balls off, super rough upbringing, made his millions in his 20s and his 30s in like medical sales, and was retired, had an accident, lost all his money for the accident, and got back, and now he's like coasting again. The reason I say this is because in America you can fucking fall, bro, and like no one's saving you, and you hit that ground and you'll hit Skid Row, right? In Ireland and the UK, there's a floorboard. You go onto your fucking government plan, you can scam the system. I know many people that have scammed the system, man, close to home as well. I didn't have a fucking much of a pretty family either, don't worry about it, because they can ride the system. So there's like this floorboard that you can't fall too much, which is why you can complain and bitch and moan. And then on the upside, then like taxes like 60% or whatever. So as a result of that too, the upside is like, why would you bother? Like the mentality, not my attitude, but the mentality. Whereas in America, huge upside and a huge fall, which means the men are fucking hungry and they're competitive. And I feel if you're in the right space, I've never had an issue with another guy in America that's in like our space, because I think we're just kind of like values aligned. I'd like to get your kind of thoughts on that kind of perspective. This is like my own hypothesis, to be honest, but I feel there's a lot of merit to it, man, because I meet a lot of guys who are like, yeah, I'm still living at home, and yeah, I'm thinking about doing this. Like, bro, just fucking do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's that whole socialist experiment, right? They feel like if you give people that grounding, like you say in the UK, benefits and everything else,
UPS, or what the fuck it's called, Universal Basic Income.
That's the new thing they're talking about.
UBI, sorry.
I don't know how that helps anybody. It's like, you take it back down to a smaller version. It's like when your friend or a good friend of yours is starting failing and they're begging basically, and you give them a bit of money. Does giving them money help them, or does it hinder them? Are you just becoming that guy that helps them out and then they just rely on you and then they don't live? Or should they feel that pain and anguish of loss? Like, it's such a complicated thing to talk about, but in my opinion, the reason America is, I don't know how many more times richer, but if England was a state in America, I think we're the poorest state apart from, by a long way. And if you take London out of the UK, I believe we're something like we're poorer than Zimbabwe or something crazy. So the UK is such a poor place. People don't talk about the UK. Like, finances are they're abysmal. Like, it's dropped off a cliff compared to being the great empire that we once were. And I think we'd be the poorest state in America by a long way. And I think that's because of the mentality and because of, I mean, now the amount of people leaving the UK because of the taxes. I think now, I read it today or yesterday, in Kensington and Chelsea, the house prices are the lowest they've been since 2013. So in 12 years, the house prices haven't been this bad. The whole economy is collapsing, and everyone who's got money is leaving. Everyone who's got money. There was a big discussion about this. There's a guy called Rob Moore.
I don't know. I've had him on my podcast.
Yeah, incredible.
You were on
guy.
his podcast.
I've been on his podcast as well. Great, very, very smart individual. He is the guy to talk about money and talk about the government and talk about things in the UK. He's much more educated than I am, and everything I listen to when he's talking about it completely makes sense. And Nigel Farage is obviously the front runner for someone to save the UK or to do something about it. I'm just not sure if he has got the minerals. I don't know if he'll actually follow through with anything, but I hope that he comes into power at some time so we can at least test that. But again, for me, it's just England is no longer England for me. I've lost complete, and that's where me and Elliot Wise and a few of my other friends, I've got very, very good friends that are like, I should move back to England and I should fight for England. That's what a lot of people believe. I'm like, okay, but it's for me in my life where I'm at right now and what I've seen the country go through. I don't believe the impact that they would have on my life is worth it personally at this point.
And also, you got to think about it this way: is that back in the day, people had no other choice to be patriotic and a nationalist. Like you had to like be behind fucking Ireland because there's nothing else. Whereas now, it's like the girl in the red dress, right? UK is competing with other countries. Ireland is competing with other people, whether like Dubai and even America, or even just fucking being on a fucking beach in Thailand, right? You have opportunity. So that's why I think as a young guy, you have to have your head out of the sand, right? If you're going through like the traditional approach, it's like, dude, there is so much more to life available to you on top of the dollars and cents that you can make, right? Because if you did it, if I can fucking do it, and I'm a dumbass who's super dyslexic and barely fucking read or write, it's possible. So I think this is what's so interesting, right? I've been in the space for a good couple of years, and just by virtue of just chewing glass for an extremely long period of time, it just kind of clicks, right? And then you become lucky. What kind of observations have you made of that? Because you've worked with a lot of young guys, right? And I think you've seen great guys, but then you've seen guys with a lot of potential, and then some guys then who kind of just did fuck all. So how have you kind of observed that, especially some lessons?
I think the biggest lesson for me, and I talk about this a lot, is people that are willing to move away from their comfort zone or where they live or where they grew up, they're always more successful in every part of life. Because even if you move to Marbella or to Bali or to America or to trying to get a better life, there's so many things you need to figure out just to do that. So you might not instantly improve and your life might instantly get better, but you learn a lot about yourself, and you learn a lot about your circumstances, and you learn a lot of perspective on where you were. And I think, I don't know, it'd be interesting to know about Ireland, but I don't know many people that leave the UK and then decide to go back. I don't know many people. I know a few, but I don't know many people that taste another nation, that taste another way of life, that taste another energy, that decide, I was wrong, I should go back to the UK. A lot of people are drawn back because they fail.
Exactly, to the words of my mouth.
They might fail elsewhere and then go back because it's safe, but I don't know anyone who wants to go back. There's a big difference. And I think being that guy willing to step outside your comfort zone, even if it's you want to stay in the UK, but you want to leave your hometown and you want to go somewhere else, another part, you want to move to London, you want to move to the north, you want to do whatever, to try a new environment, that takes a lot of skills. And I think building those skills, I think that's what made my life so simple. I left London when I was 10. I moved to Cambridge, not on my own, but like with my family. And then when I was in Essex, where I moved in Chelmsford, I decided to leave when I was 16. I moved out on my own, and I went and worked up in Peterborough. Peterborough's a very rough, horrible place.
Sounds like a shithole, bro.
It's a shithole, trust me. That's actually where Rob Moore is from, and I always make jokes about it.
Bro, he asked me to go up there for a podcast last week, and we put into Google from London, and I was like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
It was 2 hours. I was like, I love Rob, but I was like, 2 hours out of London? I don't think so, man.
No. Peterborough is tough, mate. Peterborough's a shithole. I used to work in a harvester there, which we won't even know what that is. But and then I moved from Peterborough to Cambridge, and then I moved from Cambridge to California, and then I moved from California to Malaga, and then I moved from Malaga to here. So it's like,
the ability to figure shit out.
It's the ability to figure shit out. It's the ability to stand on your own 2 feet. So I was saying, you have all these guys that you said they might have potential, they might be interesting, they might be talented, whatever. But if they're not willing to stand on their own 2 feet and to live life on their own terms, how are they going to ever achieve anything? It's like, that's why I think staying in your own bubble is a big hindrance to your true value. So I think when you're willing to stand outside your own bubble, go somewhere, even if it's an experiment. Like so many people, like you say, go to Bali, go to, they talk about traveling. I'm not talking about traveling. I'm talking about trying to achieve a new lifestyle somewhere else. Try it differently. Talk about something. We were actually said about it outside. And Andrew said this to me about not drinking. So I decided to give up booze, and I'm 6 months yesterday. I've not been drinking. And I didn't drink when I was fighting, so I kind of had a bit of an advantage. But I was playing with the idea of giving up alcohol, and I spoke to Andrew because, again, he's one of the most successful guys I know, and he doesn't drink, right? So I thought, I'll talk to him about it. Yeah, he's been sober 3 years. Yeah, so he's...
Fuck, no way.
He's Muslim as well, so he doesn't... Since he turned Muslim, he hasn't had a drink, and that's been 3 years. So,
I did not know that.
Or maybe longer than that now. And he said to me, you've lived 36 years of your life one way, why don't you try living the other way? To me, that was such a profound bit of advice, not just for giving up alcohol, but for so many different things that you could look at, because we all build up these perspectives on life and these ways to live. And I know this foundation, that I should do this and da-da-da-da-da. And you build kind of like a glass or a cage around yourself where you live a certain way and you speak a certain way and you believe a certain thing. But why don't you just try living a different way for another time? So if you're a 20-year-old kid that's only ever lived in the UK or Ireland or America or wherever it is, why don't you move somewhere else, have a whole new perspective on life and see if that's right for you or not? Because what I don't like is when people tell you that life is short. Oh, life is short, YOLO, da-da-da. Bullshit. Life is long, bro. Like if you live life with intensity, life is long. You can do so much. I feel like I've lived 100 lifetimes. And most people just live one. They just live in that fucking 9-to-5 bubble, going to work every single day. And it's like, listen, if you've got a secure 9-to-5 job, good for you, great career, good for you, go for it. Why don't you try living a different way for 6 months and see if you prefer it? And okay, you can always go back to that 9-to-5 life and the 9-to-5 bubble. Do something different and see if you prefer that life. And that, what I think is like a freedom that is very hard to explain. Because once you taste, for me, I haven't had a boss since Dana White, if you consider Dana White a boss of mine. And that's, to be honest, one of the reasons I think I did very badly later on in my fighting career, is because I realized Dana was my boss. Because I got into fighting because I believed it was only me and I was doing it because I loved it and it was my individuality and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I was in control of my own destiny. I'm going to fight. Slept on the floor, learned how to fight because it was my destiny and I picked it. That's what I loved about it. Got to the UFC, realized I had a boss, realized he picked when I fought, when I did da-da-da-da, and it kind of like fucking froze me down. And since then, I've had people that I work with, I've had people that I rely on, I've had people that can tell me what to do in certain situations, but I am the master of my own destiny and my life depends on me. And I think that mentality is missing now. And I think you get that as a man, I'm talking, as a man, when you step outside your comfort zone and you realize that. Another thing, this doesn't always happen, but I'm quoting Andrew a lot now as well. But Andrew speaks to me, and it's something I still have not yet faced. But when his dad died, he realized that everything relied on him. Because before that, you have your dad, and you can ring your dad if you have a good relationship with him. My dad is like my hero. I ring my dad if I have a problem, right? I can ring him and be like, oh, Dad, this, da, 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 da. He's always going to have your back. He's your dad, if you've got a good relationship with him. So you realize that you're standing on your own 2 feet, but if I went bankrupt and I had no money, I could always live with my dad, right? Once my dad's gone, then I'm really truly standing on my own 2 feet. That was kind of my point. But my dad's 74 now, and when I ring him for advice, I realize I probably should give him advice sometimes, but it is what it is. It's like that changing of guard. But I think when you decide to live by your own terms and to fully rely on yourself, and then you have to rely on yourself in a situation and you get through it, that's how you build up confidence. It's a stupid example.
And responsibility, right?
Yeah, responsibility. You have that responsibility. Once you accept that you have that responsibility, that's the biggest part.
And same with marriage. I know you're married. Same with kids. Because I didn't have like a great relationship with my family. So when I was kind of building and leaving the fucking regular fucking normie world, I've always felt that kind of like underlying like it's like do or die. I've always felt that. And I was like driven by insecurity. A lot of times like I'm fucking 5'6" on a good day. So it's like I have something to prove.
Yeah.
Which is fucking good. It's fucking good to have that. And the kind of fear. Like, bro, I was telling one of the guys yesterday, I used to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, not because I wanted to, out of like anxiety. I'd wake up like, and I would just run to my laptop and start doing cold outreach. And I did that for a fucking long time, man, until I could sleep because I knew I had this skill. Okay. And I had that, and I've done quite well as a result of that behavior until I overcame it. And then I got married. And when I got married, it was the same thing. It was like, because I was always responsible for Elise, but I was more like, now I'm actually responsible. Like I met her father, and I was like, right, so whether I have fucking 7 cents in the bank or fucking 7 million, it's going to be like this. And I think that is good. Like that has helped me a lot. And I got married quite young, and I kind of did it intentionally because I was like, well, I'm fucking serious about things, and if I'm in alignment with what I say, not just a bro on a podcast, I should be serious about that. And I think that's where the gap comes in. Like Elise was 22 when we got married, right? And it's like that's not common now, but before it was common in the 80s and 90s, and those guys are arguably a lot harder because they didn't have the comforts that we have. One of my clients, he's also mentored by this other guy who's like a really big guy in the fitness space. He was saying that since the pandemic and people coming out of the pandemic, a lot of buyers are a lot more emotional than what they used to be. Because pre-COVID, everyone was just in their own fucking bubble, and then COVID came. They were given money, supplementary, and then now they've come out of that, and people are just overly emotional and skeptical, and just they have had this time whereby they were dependent on someone else. You develop a codependency, which is, by the way, the worst thing you can fucking do, especially as a guy. I see this a lot with client work. People develop codependencies, and as a result of that, then when the ass falls out or the result doesn't come in, or there's like one hiccup, like fucking one hiccup, throw your hands up. And dude, like, you've come from a fighting background, so you must be observing this, being like, these guys are pussies, right? Because I say this to people, man. If people pay me, I will say that to them. Be like, you are fucking being emotional right now. We need to dial it back a small bit.
I don't think I interact with enough people like that. As in, I am so in my own bubble and my own life that I'm so fortunate that I only spend time with people similar to my ilk in that mentality aspect. It's like, I don't understand leftism in any way, because I never ever speak to anyone who's like that. I have molded my reality that I spend my day, like I said, I take complete responsibility for who I am, what I do, how I do it. And one of the responsibilities is, don't let any of those people near me. Like, I do not want to spend time with people like that.
Keep them away from me.
Recently, I started adding to my team, and I was doing interviews with young kids, like 19, 20, 21, 22. And I did a lot of calls and interviews. And by God, it was unbelievable. Like, I still do not understand how these people are alive. Like when I was speaking to them, I was just like, you want a job? Like, they are so, I don't know what it is. I couldn't explain it. The energy coming off these people and the discussion I was having and the responsibility that they take, I was just like, I don't want to speak to this person. I don't want it near me. So hang up, next one, same, next one, same. I was just like, babies, children. Like, I was not like this. Like I said, I left home at 16 and I got 2 jobs. You know,
it's
like
from sport, bro.
No, it was before sport.
But even like, it's a mentality that's a mentality you had. That's why I got you into sport. Because I used to do individual. I used to be a 100-meter sprinter. And it was the same thing. And I was brought up under the vein. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was brought up under the vein, which is, you're always a loser until you're a winner. And that is a little bit of truth to it. I've kind of come around a small bit. I'm still kind of in between it, but that was the logic with sprinting, which is like, there's only one winner. Fuck the second and third. And I grew up in a very competitive space, like, and I grew up in that space until I couldn't compete anymore, because when you go into like the broader market for that stuff, like, you have like the British guys, the American guys, and so on. So that has rung through my brain since I started at 4. Started at 4, man. You know, so that's why I don't get this. But just to double down on the employee part, I think I did a lot of, I think about this a lot, because I have a lot of team members, and I've hired for over the years. Even when I worked in corporate, like, I was doing a lot of the hiring for my team. It's just a lot of these guys are focused on output, and they know that they're going to get like 30K a year, where fuck it is, for output. So rain, hail, snow, whatever, they're going to get that money. Whereas when it's outcome orientated, they're not willing to take on that responsibility. So I had an interesting chat with one of my top sales reps when he was ramping up. Obviously, you're not making that many sales in the ramp up, and he came to me and he was like, I wouldn't mind if we could add in a base. And I was like, if you take a base, you'll never become an entrepreneur, because you'll be focused on output, doing dials, doing emails, versus outcome. I will get you there if you don't be a fucking princess, and I will teach you how to think about outcome, how to literally eat what you kill. And then he came around, and he's been our top performing rep since. I think, like, you got to kick people off the edge every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure.
It's a characteristic trait, though. It's characteristic.
That's characteristic. Yeah, for me, I'm still. I think growing out teams and doing that is a part of the entrepreneurial journey that I'm moving into now. I think that's the most important. I think that's how you build out to make real money, is having other people beneath you and teams and da 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 da. And I think that's a whole different management, and everything else is a whole different skill set, because most people now they work alone, they make money alone, they do, you know, like, to an extent, because of the internet and everything else. But I've been so outside of reality, if you want to call it that, for my whole life. Like, I fought in the UFC, and then after fighting in the UFC, I just competed and fought and was training for 8-9 years. Then I started my own business, and I've always knew I was going to work. My dad was an entrepreneur. He worked for himself. I knew I was going to work for myself. I had jobs when I was a kid, but I haven't had a boss for, I said Dana was my boss, but even before Dana, I was 20. You know, since 17 years, I've not had someone tell me I have to wake up and do. I just have to do it, because if I don't do it, I get no outcome, like you said. So for me to then speak to people and employ people, I'm like, fuck, how do these people function? It blew my mind. But that's the only real contact I've had with these sort of people. You know, so it's, I need to, everyone I associate with, I believe, has some sort of mentality similar to me, because I choose to. And because I live in Marbella, I don't know what Bali's like. I'm sure it's quite similar, but it's like an entrepreneur's heaven here. 100%. You know what I mean? So everyone, I mean, see people on holiday and stuff like that here, drinking or whatever, but I don't do that. So if I'm having a coffee, you can even like sense if they're an entrepreneur or not, really. And then I might talk to somebody every now and then, but really I just stay in my own lane. So I'm not exposed to those sort of individuals. And I think when I go moving to this coaching, like we were talking about, I'm going to be exposed to a lot more of them, and I'll see it maybe a little bit more. But I think that's why my input is so necessary, and that's why they need it. That's why they need the coaching, because I live in such a frame and in such a lifestyle that I want them to try to adapt my character traits.
I always say that, you know, you got to do it for yourself before you do it for anybody else. You don't want to be the broke financial advisor, the fat personal trainer, the single marriage counselor, right? Like, you have to do it for yourself before you can even put your fucking head up. You did all those fights, you got your head kicked in for so many years before you went back into the ring back in to coach people, even for boxing, right? Yeah. And I think that level of like needing to get that expertise or do the reps is lost. Like, that actually is lost. Like, people have just not put in those reps, which is why I said they're very emotional.
Yeah, emotional, and I think results-based. Like, I think a lot of people, there's too much vision in the world now that people can see what they can, like, if you're a broke, living at home, you can see how a millionaire's lifestyle, because it's all pushed over the internet. So you can watch that and you can kind of live in that, and you're like, I want that. You want that, but you don't understand all the bullshit that you had to do to get there, right? But you get psyoped into believing that you can have it. You can have it if you're willing to eat shit for 20 years. Yeah. That's the reality. But most people aren't willing to do shit. So it's a big issue that we have. And like you said, I can speak from a place of authority because of what I have done. So I spent 18 years of my life cage fighting, and I lived on the floor for 2.5 years to get to the stage where I was okay at it. You know what I mean? And so after 2.5 years of sleeping on the floor and training fucking 8 hours a day, I was okay at fighting. I wasn't good. You know, and then I had to become good, and then I had to travel, and then I had to. So after all of that time, I then was a coach for 10 years, studied coaching, had to go do courses and whatever else in Sweden, learned how to train. Then I had a gym, and I coached people, coached classes, one-on-one, forever. Now I'm going into the online coaching space, but I've got 20 years of experience in dealing with people. And I think that's, you might know how to do a bicep curl and what muscles it engages and blah, 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 blah. But it's dealing with different character traits, dealing with different people, dealing with different individuals, dealing with different situations, that you learn through coaching. That is the real value. You know what I mean? And so that 20 years of me, I started coaching MMA 2 years into my MMA journey because I understood the power of coaching. So I was 2 years in, I was living in the gym. I used to get paid money by the gym to teach the beginners classes. I used to teach beginners classes, how to do a triangle, how to do an armbar, how to take mount, an 8-week course on doing MMA. And it made me a better fighter because they would ask questions and I'd be like,
you think about it, fighting technique.
I'll tell you tomorrow because I do not know.
Yeah,
so that was how I got better and better and better and better.
Best way to learn is teach.
Yeah, 100%.
Always.
100%. And you get so much out of it.
You ever hear the concept of scars versus wounds? So most young guys are selling their wounds. If you put your hand in the fire, you're like, oh, that's hot. And then they'll start teaching people to not put your hand in the fire. But your scars, you spend 10 fucking years chewing the coals from the fire that you know how to navigate the fire. You know, like there's like an art and a mastery to it. And that's a big difference I see. I see a lot of young guys selling their basically as wounds, just a cut. And even guys that I've interacted with, the way that we like kind of run content and run businesses and stuff, we call it the ecosystem. And it's like a term that we like made. Like I literally fucking made it, dude. And we made it like a few years ago too. And I met a guy very recently at an event, And I was helping him and so on and so forth. And he kind of had a few things going and so on. And I was like, oh, it kind of fits into this. Next thing I see on his Instagram bio, like, learn how to build an ecosystem. And my team member sent it to me. And we were like, yeah, man, he's selling his wounds, right? It's just like he didn't spend the fucking years chewing the glass. And it's interesting, right? I think people realize that when they go to buy. Maybe
Sometimes
I think like that's where people get burned and so on, where the industry has a bad name. But I like to look at it through that lens, like who has the scars, you know, like who you learn from, right?
Well, I see that in a whole different spectrum, but I see that in fighting so much when I see personal trainers and I see people holding pads, and I see it's like that depth of knowledge is not there, you know. And I think for me, it's so easy to see. I can see. I can just sense it when I meet somebody. I don't know how to explain it, but teaching someone how to fight is so much more than teaching the actions of how to fight. The how to throw a punch is not what you need to learn. You need to learn how to control your mind, control your body, control your energy, control your spirit. And that is glazed over and missed because they've never had to do that because they're selling their wounds. I really, really like that. I never thought of it like that way, but I've seen it so much now. And they just become little robots that can do the same motions over and over again, but they don't have any depth to them. And I think that's where we're living in now. There's no depth to people. And I think that's going to be the difference, especially with AI and how it's taking over and how there's going to be people teaching people how to do things that they're not even real. They're AI teaching you how to do something or selling you something because they've been trained. That's going to be the differentiating factor is people that are real and have that depth to them compared to those that are just literally completely generated. Right now we're living in like AI generated world, but through people that are speaking their wounds, if you want to call it that. So they have everything on the surface and they'll tell you the right thing and people are buying that thing. Soon we're going to have them telling you the right thing, buying from a completely AI generated person, and it's going to be the same.
Well, the difference is accountability. That's it, right? It's accountability. It's a feedback loop. It's actually being able to spot something and say, like, yes, I'll give a really good example. Trading is a very good example. So there's principles and there's practices, but the most experienced traders will break their pattern every once in a while because they'll spot something, an opportunity, like, oh yeah, and I did it that way. And then the young guys will be like, oh my God, you broke your pattern. It's like, no, there's an opportunity here. There's an edge here. You probably see this in fighting, right? Some guy's fucking nose breaks. That's like an advantage, whatever. And I think that's the thing. It's like putting your finger in there. So, you know, Rick Rubin, like, I think he created R&B and rap, and he created the industry, but he's like 30-40 years in music, one of the most well-known songwriter, producer in the entire world. His whole thing is like coming in and looking at the whole fucked up whole scenario and knowing where to put his little touch, you know. And that's the 40-50 years that there's actually another story I'll tell you. You ever heard the story with the ex in the warehouse? You'll love this. No. So it's actually a fable, but it's a fucking great story. So it's like the 90s, early 2000s. There's a factory and it's bleeding money and it's losing $50,000 or $100,000 a month, and they're losing money, right? And they hire this consultant, and this guy, they ring up and he goes, yeah, I'll be in tomorrow. And he's walking around a factory floor and they think, oh, it could be this issue with that pipe and this issue. And he's like, no, it's not that. And then he looks at some like massive container and he goes over and he puts an X there and he goes, change that and he'll fix all your issues. So they say, okay, thank you. And he said, I'll send you the invoice. He leaves. The next morning, the invoice arrives on the manager's desk, and it says $50,000. And the guy shits his pants, and he rings him. He says, "What the fuck is up with this? $50,000." He said it was $1 for the X, $49,999 for knowing where to put it. And that's the game, right? It's knowing where to put the fucking X, and there's not enough guys doing that. And you said it perfectly earlier, which was, you said indirectly, Andrew has a coach. Andrew's been kickboxing his entire fucking life, but he still has someone teaching him how to do it. And the worst trait you can be in the entire world is be uncoachable.
Yeah, I think not asking questions and not trying to improve and thinking you know everything, you know, and that's, we see that more and more and more, and it comes from those people. The reason that they feel like they know everything is because they don't know how much there is to learn. You know, like they only see certain parts of it because they're like, again, I'm going to go back to that wounds thing. They're just teaching their wounds because they haven't got the depth because they've never been there. So it's like that. I talk about energy and fighting, and I talk about how, you know, a fight is basically a fight over energy. And most people are like, what are you even talking about? Like, if I do this, this, and this, it's like, you don't understand. When you get to the higher levels, everyone knows everything. Everyone's good at everything. Everyone's in shape. Everyone's got great cardio. Everyone knows how to throw every punch, every kick, every submission, every take that. They know everything. It comes down to energy. Like, John Jones is the best in the world because of his energy, not because of his technique, not because of his athleticism, not because of any of that crap. And that energy becomes from self-belief and becomes from your foundations. It comes down from you believing you're the most dangerous man alive. That's it. That's all it comes down to. And people can talk about it or whatever. But when you watch a fight and you look at it from an energy perspective, an output perspective, and trying to break the other person's soul, which is what you're trying to do when you fight, you see it differently. And that's why some people can beat other people that are less technical, that can beat other people that are not as good, whatever. It comes down to how much they want it, right? That people understand it when you spit it that way. How much you want it compared to how much you don't. I have lost fights against people way, way, way worse than me because all they did was want it and I wasn't bothered because my career was coming to an end. You see that when people are like, they talk about how the young lion eats the old lion. It's because they don't want it anymore.
Or like when their jaw goes.
Yeah, no, it's energy.
But that's belief though, right? Because they believe that,
it's belief. Listen, bro, my jaw went because I believed I was the most deadly man alive for the beginning of my career, even if it was bullshit, even if it's not real. I still believed it, and then as soon as I didn't believe it, I got knocked out straight away. You know, I've seen people be kicked in there, like the most ridiculous spinning heel kick to the jaw, and he's like, nice, took it. I have hit people with everything in my whole aura, and they just take it. It's because they believe they're indestructible. There's so much to it.
You need to be completely autistically delusional.
Yeah, delusion's perfect
at all times.
With everything you're trying to achieve. So fighting is a delusional sport. Like, if you want to be the best, you have to be delusional. You cannot be like, yeah, I knew this and I knew. No, you are delusionally believe you are unstoppable, which is not true. And it's the same with business, the same with life, the same with anything. If you want to achieve this, it has to be. That's why you say, everyone says, make your goals bigger. Yeah, because it needs to be delusional, completely delusional. But you have to believe it. That's the thing that's different.
You know the bell curve?
Yes.
You know the bell curve meme where it's on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, the sage and the dumbass, and then the guy in the middle, it's all complicated. Like, you need to be on, like, I think that's why when you start and you're completely just a dumbass, and you're just like, if you looked at you lying on the couch, or lying on the floor, sleeping on the floor, anyone with a brain would say that's illogical. But that illogical behavior created this asymmetrical return, right? And so funny, last week we doubled our sales team. We now have 6. 6 is quite a big for a sales team. And today we just a lot of guys joined, and it was one of their first meetings. And the guy was like, in like a month, like how many calls should we be taking a month? There's 2 of them, approximately. And I was like, well, we want to get to here. This is where we want to get to, and we'll need to take around 300 to 500 when we're here. And the guy loses his fucking mind, and I'm like, I need to have that belief, and I truly fucking believe I can get there, by the way. And I need to have that belief. And then he's like shocked because he's like, he thought I was going to say, oh, maybe 5 one week and then 5 the next week. And I was like, well, if there's 50 over here, 500 over here, we'll actually need 8 more of you. So yeah, we're on this trajectory. That's 2026, but that's where we want to get to.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, and then their feedback was like the energy is fucking strong. And I think it's just delusion. And it's not like arbitrary, because like there's obviously a fucking strategy in place, right? I'm not actually insane. There's a difference there, right? There actually is a strategy behind it. But I think just having this like really wild effect it's also infectious, right? I went into a gym. Funny enough, a good guy for you to meet. He's not here anymore, but one of my friends is a hypnotist, and hypnosis is huge for fighters, right?
Yeah, it was for a while. Yeah, it still is. I guess
it still is, but at the end of the day, it's belief.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
And like whether the term has negative connotations, but it's fucking belief. And guy's a small guy, he's a pretty skinny guy, and we're in the gym together doing like 4 plates, 5 plates, and he's working with like a lot of entrepreneurs and athletes. And I think the whole logic is it's just belief. Whether you believe it or not, you just gotta believe you can do it. And I think hypnosis is interesting because it's like a thing that's in that they can point at. You can point at it and be like, that's the thing that got you there, whether you believe it or not. But I'm pretty sure like Ali did a lot of hypnosis, and Tyson
probably. Yeah.
But Tyson's upbringing, right?
No.
So Tyson's coach was fucking hell. At least can you look up Mike Tyson's coach?
Oh, the old white guy.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name.
yeah, whatever his name is, but I remember his name straight away. But he took him in at 12, 13 years old, and Tyson's upbringing was super, super bad. But they hypnotized him.
Oh, okay.
And they gave him the belief that he was an animal. And every single time they would sit down with him, and he would go through, like, his background, his coach. At least, what's the name? You pull it up.
No.
Yeah, but his background was in hypnosis.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it
okay.
wasn't in boxing.
I know who you mean.
Yeah, it wasn't in boxing.
Yeah.
They believed that he was an animal, and he went through that process over and over again on Customado. Yeah, Customado. Until he died.
Yeah.
And then when he died,
he started losing.
They didn't have a way to tame him.
Yeah.
So he was in the trance, and he never got out of it.
So I didn't know the hypnosis thing. I've seen about Customado, but it's a trance is just a state, right? So it's like if you're hypnotizing yourself, you're just putting yourself in a different state. You want to call it a flow state, you want to call it whatever, an analytic state, whatever it is. So this is something that every fighter does pretty much. You all have a state that you go into a fight. So it's a very, very common thing. People just don't talk about it a lot. But that's why I believe so heavily in affirmations and in belief. So it's like if you say something over and over again, and you truly start believing in it, you're more likely for it to happen. It's like basic, right? But most people won't believe in affirmations and won't believe in saying words out loud and not understanding that, they call it, everyone talks about words and how they call it spelling because you're casting spells. Everything that you say and you put into the universe is something that you are putting yourself into a certain trance. So when you use affirmations and you say them, like I used to do it before training, for every training session, I would say certain things and that would put me into a certain trance or a certain flow state or whatever to then go into that training session. And the problem is people think about it in combat, they think about it in the fight. So they'll do it, but you fight every 3 months. So how do you get good at putting yourself into a stance? It's like into a place. Like Tyson, I didn't know actually about Tyson. He did it every day. I'm sure he did it every day. Before every training session, before every night, before every morning. So that's how you can train your brain or train your mind to become delusional, which is what it is. It's delusion. But if it's delusion that's self-serving, who cares?
Exactly.
Right? So I have such a belief in, it was actually an American guy that gave me the belief in affirmations. I went to, what's the place where all the Mormons are? Utah, Salt Lake City. So I was in Salt Lake City.
She's like fucking, Joe Rogan's guy in the back.
Utah. I was in Salt Lake City with a salesman. He worked in property, and he used to make his staff every morning do affirmations. And I was like a young guy. I was fighting, but I was young, and I was like, "What is this? This is like voodoo." Like I'd go to his office and get everyone to stand in a circle and say these affirmations. And I used to think it was ridiculous, and I mean ridiculous, very Americanized, very ridiculous. And I was like, "Why do you get them to do that?" He goes, "I put them in the right state." Before work, they go out and they do sales and da da da. I was like, okay. And then I saw a sports psychologist for a little while, and we spoke about it, and I went through this whole system, and then I started doing affirmations myself, and I would just see. It's like when you put yourself in a certain state and you say certain things. I don't know. You'll maybe know because I don't remember these things, but they say like, what's the whole red car thing? If you talk about red cars, then you start noticing red cars everywhere. It's like if you start saying certain phrases every single day to put yourself into a certain state of mind every single day, you start noticing opportunity rather than noticing problems.
That's how I got this watch.
Okay.
So all I wanted was like a yellow gold Rolex, and it's super hard to get. And I live in Asia, and there's no supply. There's no fucking supply. And all I wanted was that, and I was on like 4 different wait lists in Jakarta, Singapore, and Bangkok. And all I fucking wanted, and I waited a long time, dude, and I wasn't just going to make my first like 10k. And then I came to London, and I was like, I fucking need this. I said, it's the only thing I want, and I've had options to get other ones that are way better and everything. And then I walked into a place in Soho, and then I literally saw it right there. And then I was like, I don't give a fuck how much it is. I was like, that's it. That's the one. And then it turned out to have like a lot of history with it and all this kind of shit. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. It's that thing. And it just becomes true. It becomes your world. You know what I mean? And you need to do that, right? Whether it's materialistic, not materialistic, it doesn't fucking matter. It's just that belief.
It's understanding what you want, identifying what it is, and then making things happen so that it happens for you, right? So I think that's training the mind and getting good at training the mind It is a skill set that people completely underestimate, and they call it woo-woo. You use the phrase woo-woo outside, which made me laugh because I use that phrase as well. But they talk about it being woo-woo, and it's the complete opposite. You are told that to put you away from it, to get you away from everything about vibration, about energy, about thought
Frequency.
patterns. Frequency, it's everything. It's everything in the world and everything in life. And I think when people accept that, it starts them on this journey of understanding.
And then you can know where your energy is best placed and whose energy is best placed for what role. Editing, design, sales, marketing. You can see where you're best positioned, right? And like I'm best positioned like in these settings, in person, in events, running events. I'm not best positioned fucking editing my reels. Like I'm just not, right? And obviously there's a level of awareness that comes up from here. And I'll finish up at this point, but you mentioned with the Salt Lake City people, we do the same with our sales team, which is what's our intentions on. So we do intentions on a Monday, and then on Friday we review the intentions based off of what it is, and we see the gap. So there's a bit of logic, right? So it's like how much you want to sell, how much context you need to hit a day, a week, and how does that make sense? And then it just basically evaporates. The culture increases, and then the quality of the culture is improved. Everyone feels like they're learning. Yes, they're making money, but they're learning, and they're learning from you. So I want to say a massive thank you. You're a fucking legend. I feel like we could rip for another couple of hours.
For
But
sure.
I really appreciate this, especially I'm leaving tomorrow, and you're a gentleman.
Thank you very much. Nice one, bro. Cheers.